Someone may have comforted you by telling you that silence is powerful and that withdrawing into yourself, pulling back, and disappearing into the shadows will somehow bring them to their knees. However, I want to know if it has ever really worked. How many nights have you spent in silence waiting for a text that never arrived? How many mornings have you woken up with the hope that perhaps today they will realize what they lost? Be honest with yourself. Did that silence bring you peace or more pain? Did it free you or did it trap you, repeating the same conversations over and over again? Repeated situations and unfulfilled expectations persist. Silence, contrary to popular belief, is not a secret strategy that can elicit someone's love, remorse, or attention. Silence, when wielded without strength and purpose, becomes a cage, one you build for yourself. And here's the harsh reality that most won't tell you. They're not sitting there tormented, wondering where you went. They're not consumed by guilt or regret. They know why you're silent, and that knowledge strips your silence of its power. Silence, in their eyes, doesn't confuse or unsettle them. It reassures them. Why? Because they've seen this game before. They know its every move. Your silence doesn't mean mystery. It means predictability. But what if there's a way to reclaim your power? What if you could step out of this cycle not with silence, but with something far greater? Stoicism teaches us that true strength lies in clarity, action, and self-mastery, not in hoping others will interpret your silence as strength. It's time to stop playing their game and start living by your truth. Let me take you on a journey. This isn't just another self-help book. It's a thorough exploration of the 7 essential realities that will not only shatter the idea of silence, but also transform you into someone they can't touch. Each truth will make you re-evaluate your preconceptions, think critically, and take action. This is the moment of awakening that you have been longing for. The silence trap. For you, what does quiet mean? 1. The silence trap. Does it feel more like punishment or more like power? Here's the painful truth. Are you using quiet as a weapon in the hopes of hurting someone else, or are you using it to preserve your peace? You drown in your desire for them as you use silence to make them feel your absence. Silence is only effective when it originates from a place of genuine indifference, when it stems from fear, pain, or the hope that someone else will notice. It poisons you rather than empowers you. Do they even notice your silence, or are they relieved by it? Think back to the last time you withdrew. Did they follow you? Did your absence seem to trouble them? Or did they quietly move on, leaving you trapped in a cycle of silence? Perhaps using silence as a tactic keeps you connected to their world. It's not an escape, but a pause, a game move, a signal that you're still playing. The worst part is that they know you're waiting, they know your silence is temporary, and they know you'll break eventually. However, it doesn't hurt them. Rather, it comforts them and confirms what they already believe, that they still matter to you even when you're not speaking. Stoicism, on the other hand, teaches us that control begins with ourselves, not with others. Only when it is no longer a tactic but a state of being true does silence become powerful. Instead of keeping quiet to be noticed, silence is about cutting them off, not as punishment, but as liberation. Imagine that instead of sitting there counting down the days until they miss you, you choose to live your truth as a quiet, unapologetic declaration of who you are. You let go, not because they asked for forgiveness or closure, but because you value peace over answers. The kicker is that owning your truth makes you unpredictable and stops playing their game. They are powerless over what they can no longer comprehend. Quiet without truth is weakness, but quiet supported by truth is invincible. Let me ask you this. Are you ready to escape the trap of silence? Are you ready to stop waiting, hoping, and hurting? If the answer is yes, then say it aloud. When you stop caring, they'll notice, not because you're trying to fool them, but because your energy won't be focused on them. The thing is, silence is only a prison if you allow it to be. The door has been open the entire time. All you have to do is walk through it, and when you do, you won't just leave them wondering what happened. You'll leave them realizing they never had power over you in the first place. I own my truth. Write it in the comments, declare it, claim it, and let it be the first step toward reclaiming the life you deserve. 2. Have you ever stopped considering the power of speaking your truth? The influence of telling the truth. The truth is that silence frequently traps us in the very pain we're trying to escape. Every unsaid word, every unspoken not. Your silence does not punish them. Rather, it gives them permission to move on without having to face the consequences of what they did, while you sit there replaying every conversation and questioning everything. They are out there living unbothered, untouched, and completely unaffected. Here lies the real pain. For people like them, silence isn't a punishment but rather a comfort, a space, and permission to forget you while you remain trapped in a prison of your own making. Ask yourself how many times you silently hoped they would notice, only to feel even more invisible. Your silence was assumed to leave a void in their lives, that they would miss you and realize your worth, or that would hurt. How often have you kept your emotions to yourself? You must realize that silence lacks power when it stems from expectation. It gains power when it stems from choice. When you stop using silence to communicate pain or longing, and instead use it to create peace for yourself, everything changes. The truth lies in your belief that silence would cause them to miss you, even though they weren't actively seeking you out. In these moments, silence serves as a mirror, not for them, but for you, mirroring your continued attachment, hope, and waiting. When you truly embrace silence, it transforms into a gift, not for them, but for you. Think about this. What if you stopped using silence as a tactic to get their attention and instead began using it as a boundary, a way to safeguard your time, energy, and emotional health? Rather than withdrawing into silence in the hopes that they will reach out, you choose silence because you no longer need to interact, you no longer need to explain yourself, and you no longer need their understanding. This is where Stoicism offers profound wisdom. Stoicism teaches us to focus on the things we can control, such as our actions, responses, and inner peace. When we view silence through this lens, it's not about them. Rather, it's about reclaiming your space, strength, and sovereignty. Not because you're waiting for them to come after you, but because you've decided they no longer belong in your life. Consider the burden you're carrying, all the unsaid words, unresolved emotions, and unanswered questions. What if you could sacrifice everything in a silent, deliberate decision to let go, rather than through spectacular altercations or heartbreaking farewells? What if silence served as a declaration of your independence rather than a weapon? Imagine that you don't have to wait for their apology via text or phone call anymore. Instead of checking your phone to see whether they're thinking about you or replaying incidents, your quiet turns into a haven where you can rebuild yourself in accordance with your own truth rather than in response to them. Your silence isn't a message for them, it's a message to yourself that you are enough exactly as you are without their validation or attention. And here's the most beautiful part: when your silence is rooted in peace rather than pain. It doesn't just protect you, it transforms you. You stop being a participant in their game. You stop being someone who reacts, who waits, who hopes. Instead, you become someone who acts with intention, who moves forward without hesitation, who knows their worth is not defined by someone else's recognition. There's a powerful metaphor here. Imagine a throne. Every moment you stay silent, hoping they'll notice you're building that throne higher. You're placing them above you, giving them control over your emotions, your thoughts, your life. But what happens when you stop? When you walk away, when you no longer care whether they're looking, whether they miss you, whether they feel your absence? The throne collapses. They have nothing left to sit on because you've removed the foundation, your attention. This is what silence as a gift looks like. It's not about withholding. It's about releasing. It's not about hurting. It's about healing. It's not about them. It's about you. You choose silence, not because you want them to feel your absence, but because you've decided to fill your life with something better, your own presence. So let me ask you, are you ready to stop building thrones for people who don't deserve them? Are you ready to let go of the silence that suffocates and embrace the silence that soothes? The choice is yours. It always has been. Your silence can either be a weapon that backfires or a gift that sets you free. Which will you choose for? The comeback, thriving beyond their fall. The comeback, thriving past their reach. What if I told you that the best form of retaliation isn't silence, but rather thriving, instead of merely surviving or barely surviving? They assumed they had you figured out, believing you would remain stuck replaying the pain they caused, wondering what went wrong and waiting for them to notice. They anticipated that your silence would serve as a pause in their strategy rather than the end of it, but in reality they were unprepared for your unexpected return. Imagine that instead of wasting your energy on silence, you invested it into becoming someone who doesn't just walk away, but who builds a life so fulfilling and radiant that they can't even fathom where you've gone. Ever wonder how it would feel to truly thrive, not just superficially? Imagine finding your thoughts no longer overwhelm you in the morning. Imagine going about your day with the serene assurance that comes from understanding how you are living. On your terms, picture yourself becoming so content and at peace that your existence, or lack thereof, feels like a faint memory. This is where the true power resides. Stoicism teaches us to let go of things that are beyond our control and concentrate on the things that we can manage, such as thoughts that are not our responsibility, but rather your personal development. When you prioritize yourself over others, you regain power and control over your healing and future. However, thriving is about rising, becoming so untouchable and unapologetic that they can no longer recognize the person they once thought they could control. Surviving is freedom born of change, not retaliation generated by resentment. People like them can tolerate your rage, silence, and disregard, but not your success. When you succeed, you not only prove them wrong, but also yourself correct, saying that their best effort to destroy you wasn't enough. It's simple to ignore someone who is resentful or unmotivated, but what does thriving look like for someone who is radiant and has overcome the suffering they created to the point where it keeps them up at night? It's about genuine, observable growth, not about making people jealous by pretending to be happy or sharing fake smiles on social media. Setting goals that are entirely personal and unrelated to them is the key to pursuing your passions, fortifying your bonds with others, and creating a homely existence. Why have you been preoccupied with them? Have you neglected your friends, career, or health? Your aspirations? Thinking about your ideal self in a year is crucial. Do you want to be someone who is still waiting for closure, still hoping they'll return, still replaying old conversations? Or do you want to be someone who has advanced so much that they couldn't catch up even if they tried? To thrive means rerouting the energy you've been putting into someone else and using it to nourish yourself. Being thriving means more than simply forgetting them. It means becoming someone who doesn't need to remember them. And let's not forget that they will inevitably return. They always do. People like them don't miss you. They miss the power they had over you. They'll wait until they feel like you're beginning to heal, at which point they'll return with hollow promises, fake sincerity, and apologies. What thriving does is that it makes you immune to their games, making you someone they can't control, predict, or manipulate. They'll say, "I miss you," and insist, but you'll see through them and no longer believe their lies. You'll be untouchable. Imagine their surprise when they try to use the same tricks and they fail. Their words, which were once so powerful, bounce off you like raindrops on steel. Let me warn you that thriving isn't just about proving them wrong. It's also about proving yourself right and showing yourself you can live beyond heartache. You can rise above it, develop from it, and create a life that is not just excellent, but amazing. Successful people work hard, look in the mirror, and are honest about where they are and where they want to be. You must also let go of the belief that others will change, apologize, or somehow make things right. Choosing yourself repeatedly, even when it's difficult, is what it means to thrive. So, how does your comeback look? It could be opening a new job or pursuing a passion you've been putting off, repairing your health, forming new habits, or reconnecting with those who truly care about you. It could be as simple as making a conscious effort to improve each day compared to the previous one. Whatever it looks like, make it yours, not theirs, not anyone else's. To thrive means living a life so good and aligned you wouldn't trade it for anything, not even their attention. If you're sitting there thinking, "But what if they never see how far I've come?" Stop their recognition. It doesn't matter. Your growth isn't for them, it's for you. Let me ask you this. Are you ready to stop surviving and start living? If so, write it in the comments section. If this resonates with you, use it as a declaration or a promise to yourself that you will no longer accept less than what you deserve. If this resonates with you, please like this video and leave the first comment below to show that you're ready to thrive. Also, don't forget to subscribe because together we're creating lives that are not just unbreakable but unstoppable. Your return is more than just a possibility, it's a decision. Make your decision now, make it now, and let them wonder how you became someone they can't touch anymore, rather than why you stayed silent. 5. Burn the bridge with words. There's something therapeutic about 5. Even though burn the bridge with words has clear, concise endings, how frequently do we ignore them? How often do we abandon unresolved issues with the expectation that they will eventually resurface in the story? Why do we hesitate to express our true feelings in order to definitively close a chapter? Could it be that we fear the emptiness that follows? Why do we hesitate, and why do we leave these bridges intact, even though they still bind us to suffering? The silence that follows a bridge burns to the ground, but let's be honest with ourselves. The bridges that are afraid to burn frequently lead nowhere. They're remnants of broken connections, crumbling paths that only invite us to walk the same painful road again. Confusion and regret. You've probably told yourself that the best way to deal with it is to walk away without saying anything. In some situations, that may be true, but let me ask you, what are you keeping hidden? What truths are you swallowing because you're afraid to face them, not because they're unnecessary? When you finally lay your truth on the table, not to provoke a reaction, but to free yourself, it's like dropping a match on a bridge that has been rotting for years. The fire doesn't just consume the connection, it clears the way for something new and better. But let's be clear, sometimes silence isn't strength, it's avoidance. Speaking out with clarity and calm, rather than in anger or desperation, possesses a unique power. Burning the bridge with words is not synonymous with lashing out or pursuing revenge. The goal of revenge is to ensure that you leave with nothing left behind, not even remorse, and that there are no unspoken thoughts, regrets, or mental replays of talks that never happened. It is not about causing pain, rather it is about releasing your own. Ask yourself this: what would you say if you had no fear, if you weren't worried about their reaction, their opinion, their ability to twist your words? What truth would you speak if you were doing it purely for yourself, with no expectation of how they'd respond? Maybe you'd tell them how their actions made you feel, how their betrayals, their lies, their indifference cut deeper than they'll ever understand. Maybe you'd remind them of all the times you forgave, gave chances, stayed silent, hoping they'd change. Maybe you'd say something as simple as, "I'm done," and let that be the full stop to a sentence that's dragged on far too long. There's a certain dignity in speaking your truth with grace. When you choose your words carefully, not to wound, but to free, you reclaim the narrative. You stop letting their actions, their manipulations, or their silence dictate your story. Instead, you write the final chapter on your terms, and that in itself is an act of power. But why words? Why not just leave in silence and call it a day? Because sometimes silence can be misinterpreted. It can be twisted into something it's not. They might convince themselves that your silence means you're still waiting, still hoping, still unsure, but your words, spoken clearly and calmly, leave no room for ambiguity there. A line drawn in the sand, a declaration that the story ends here. Think of the energy you've spent, refusing to tell the truth in every internal conflict. The practice dialogues. Burning the bridge with words not only closes the door on them, but also opens one for you. You can move forward without looking back, knowing that you've said everything you needed to say. Once you've spoken your truth, it becomes irrelevant whether they understand or not. What has that silence cost you? What could you gain by finally expressing what you wanted to say but didn't? Stoicism reminds us that we control ourselves and no one else, no matter how they react to your truth, reject you, or misrepresent you. What matters is that you have taken back your voice. Choose action over inaction and clarity over uncertainty. Imagine stepping on the bridge, free from fear after years of unresolved suffering. Unspoken statements and unfulfilled expectations have kept you waiting for them to meet you halfway, but they never will. Now that you've finished waiting and are prepared to move forward, you're grasping the match, not out of resentment or spite, but because you're prepared to move on. Imagine lighting that match and watching as the flames devour the bridge. As the fire burns, you feel lighter, because each piece of wood represents a hurtful event, a broken promise, or a persistent doubt. The most crucial aspect is that you refuse to look back, as the bridge has vanished, thereby removing the temptation to revert to the past. Your words were the last act, the complete end of a chapter that no longer serves you. You ask yourself, what's stopping you from burning that bridge? Fear, doubt, the hope that someday they'll change, and letting go of those illusions. Freer by the time the bridge collapses into ash, you're no longer standing there. You're walking away unburdened, ready to build something new. Give up the impulse to cling to something that only makes you unhappy. Tell the truth. After lighting the match and leaving, you'll notice that the quiet that remains is calm and not burdensome. The sound of a new chapter beginning, the silence of waiting, hoping or wanting, the silence of freedom, and the peace that comes from knowing you've completed what you needed to accomplish. So what truth are you ready to say? What bridge are you ready to burn? The decision has always been yours and always will be. How many times have you listened to those six? Their apology is a trap, not a resolution. Their apology is a trap, not closure. Imagine them returning, their voice shaking with regret, and confessing that they were wrong to hurt you and that they miss you. Their apology feels like the balm that will mend the wounds they caused, doesn't it? But let's stop here and ask yourself if their words will actually mend what they broke. You may not want to acknowledge the reality, but an apology is often not what it seems. A trap rather than a bridge to repair, and the most dangerous part is that it doesn't look like one. It appears to be the solution you've been longing for, the approval you've been waiting for, but ask yourself, when has a simple "I'm sorry" ever made the hurt go away or repaired the harm? The terrible truth is that if you're sincere, you already know the answer. It is rarely an act of regret. Rather, it is a tactic they have used before. They have used just enough words to draw you back in and just enough emotion to make you question everything again. Let's break this down. When someone like them apologizes, it is rarely about accountability. When they feel you are slipping away, when they feel their hold on you is loosening, and when you return to power, they apologize. When you're about to let go and say, "I'm sorry," they'll say, "I didn't know I hurt you," or worse, "I've changed." Have they really stopped thinking about what happened the last time they apologized? Did they change, or did they revert to their old patterns? Did their words inspire action, or just restart the cycle? It's all about access. They say what they believe you want to hear, knowing that you've been waiting for it. You know how this game ends from watching it. Their apology serves as a lure, not to heal you, but to maintain your interest. It's like putting a band-aid over a gunshot wound, temporary, superficial, and unable to fix the actual damage. This is where Stoicism becomes invaluable. Their words will never bring you peace because they aren't meant to. Peace comes from accepting the truth for what it is and making the decision to go on. So let's ask the genuine questions. We give ourselves clarity and closure, not others. Why are you still waiting for their apology? Do you think it will make you whole again, undo the hurt, or legitimize your suffering? They demonstrate their concern and provide context for the past. The truth is, their apology won't and can't be about you. It's about them maintaining control, keeping the door open, and ensuring their place in your life. Imagine a scenario where they return with tears in their eyes, expressing everything you wanted to hear, and you feel a glimmer of hope and possibility. However, what does their apology accomplish to undo the nights you cried yourself to sleep? Does it erase the times you questioned your value? Does it change who they are and what they've done, or just repeat the cycle? People like them don't fear losing you, but they fear losing control over you when you're truly absent. They lose their power. They lose the comfort of knowing that you're still there, waiting, hoping, holding on, and that's why they return. Not out of love or regret, but out of fear. If you let them back in, they'll fin. If you let them back in, they will find that version of you again, because they've seen it before and they've counted on it. Power of looking them in the eye, not with anger or bitterness, but with quiet resolve and saying, "I don't need your words to move forward." Imagine the freedom of no longer needing their validation because you've already given it to yourself. Closure is a decision you make, not something someone can give you. It occurs the instant you stop reliving the past, give up on a different conclusion, and begin writing a new tale. Realizing that their apology isn't necessary for your healing is crucial because it's about you, not about them. But let's be clear. This isn't about ignoring your suffering or acting indifferent. Rather, it's about facing the truth with bravery and clarity, admitting the hurt, processing it, and deciding to let it go. Not because they apologized, but because you deserve peace. Picture a life in which you don't have to wait for their words or acknowledgement. Judd meant their remorse, their approval. Imagine waking up each day knowing that you've reclaimed your power, not through their apology, but through your own strength. That's the essence of Stoicism, finding freedom within yourself, independent of others. So what will you choose? Will you continue to wait, hoping they'll say the magic words that will somehow make everything better? Or will you choose to move forward, knowing that their apology is just another tool in their game? The choice is yours, and it always has been. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect, write it down. If you need to, I don't need their apology to heal. Say it out loud. Let it sink in, because the moment you stop waiting for their words, you take the first step toward your freedom. And while you're here, if this has opened your eyes, like this video and comment number 1 to show that you're ready to break free. Subscribe for more empowering truths like this, because this journey isn't over yet. It's just getting started. They don't have to apologize to you. You must give yourself permission to recover. Today is the only day you can make a return. Your return is the only way to get. Your return is the only way to exact retribution on them, as they are incapable of handling it. Omi, it means causing suffering. For others, it means seeking justice. However, allow me to present a bold proposal. The best they expected you to break. They lied about their actions, their absence and their betrayal, which would leave you stuck replaying memories and drowning in self-doubt. Through your suffering, they kept you in their orbit even after they left. However, the truth they never saw coming is that revenge isn't about what you do to them, it's about what you do for yourself. You are not a warning to them. You are the story of your own recovery. Take some time to think about this. How would it feel to rise above them, making their words, deceptions, and existence irrelevant? How would it feel to take back control of your story? Your return depends on writing a chapter so powerful and transformative that they won't recognize you. It's more important to prove oneself correct than to prove them incorrect. It's about transforming your suffering into strength and your failures into opportunities to grow. It's about proving to yourself that no matter how much something hurts you, it can never break you. The Stoics teach us to let go of others' behavior and emotions and control our own thoughts, actions, and responses. The past can't be changed or your value seen, but you can choose how to react. You can choose to rise, not because of them, but because of the strength you've discovered within yourself, because they thrive on the belief that their absence has diminished you. They want you to think that you'll always carry the scars they left behind, but scars don't mean defeat. They mean survival. When you rise with visible but not painful scars, you dispel their delusion and show them that their control over you is temporary. Evident. Your comeback is about recovering your life, your joy, and your purpose. It's about creating something so lovely and satisfying that their presence or absence becomes irrelevant. It's not about showing them what they lost or making them regret what they did. Consider what you have been suppressing as a result of them, what ambitions you have neglected, what desires you have put off, and what aspects of yourself you have concealed from your return. It begins the moment you decide to prioritize yourself, not out of resentment, but out of love for the person you're becoming and the life you're creating. Picture this at every stage of your journey toward your objectives. Every joyful moment you experience and every aspect of your life that comes together without them contributes to your healing process, your contentment, development, and achievement. They aren't weapons. People like them thrive on control because they need to feel that they've left a lasting impression on you, that their absence defines you, and that they can't accept that you've moved on. Your triumph is connected to the pain they caused. They must confront an unexpected truth. They did not break you. Let's talk about the work necessary for this return. Your radiance, your peace, flips that narrative on its head, leaving them wondering why you're thriving rather than why you're hurting. In practice, thriving looks like setting and adhering to boundaries, pursuing your passions with relentless determination, investing in relationships that uplift rather than deplete you, choosing self-care over self-sabotage, and choosing to heal even when the pain feels insurmountable. It does not happen overnight. Rather, it is a conscious process that involves a series of choices made every day. Persistence is more important than perfection, and here's the greatest part. The more you work on improving yourself, the less room the memories that you earlier absorbed will take up in your mind. The emotions that once weighed you down lessen in intensity. Your world begins to expand, filled with possibilities they no longer control. Now imagine this: they come back, because they always do. They return, not because they've changed, but because they missed the control they once had over you. They'll try the same tricks, the same apologies, the same empty promises, but by then you'll see through it all. You'll recognize their patterns, their manipulation, their inability to truly change, and you'll realize something profound. You don't need them anymore. Picture their confusion when their words, once so powerful, no longer affect you. Picture their frustration when they realize the version of you they knew. The one who waited, hoped, and hurt is gone. This is the power of your comeback. It's not about confrontation or revenge. It's about becoming someone they can no longer touch. Stoicism reminds us that true strength lies in indifference. When you stop reacting to their actions, when you stop seeking their validation, when you stop needing them to feel anything at all, you become untouchable. Your success, your joy, your tranquility turns into a mirror of your development rather than their impact. So how will your return look? Perhaps it's launching the company of your dreams, visiting their destinations, or simply discovering happiness in the little things. Whether it's laughter with friends, peaceful moments, or living without their shadow, let it be yours, not theirs, not anyone else's, and let your recovery serve as evidence of your resilience. Let them see your fortitude and your capacity to rise above everything, because, in reality, they underestimated you and failed to recognize the strength beneath the surface, the fire waiting to ignite, and the fact that you are a warrior and not just a survivor. Your comeback is about showing yourself that, no matter what they did or how deeply they hurt you, you can rise and rise. And with every step forward, every goal achieved, every moment of peace reclaimed, you'll show the world and yourself that their actions were only the beginning of your transformation. Rise to prove yourself correct, not to disprove them. As you rise, your strength surpasses their imagination. Rise because your tale is not yet over, and when you do, the best form of retaliation is resentment or rage. It's living a life so complete, so vivid, so remarkable that their part in it is no longer important. You've heard the truth. Conclusion: their game is over, your freedom is about to begin. There are no soft edges, no sugarcoating, and no empty promises. The game only ends when you choose to leave, not in a fit of rage or with grandiose gestures, but with clarity, strength, and purpose. You've been trapped in their game for far too long, hoping to replay the pain. But now you realize that silence isn't the solution when it's driven by longing. Their apology won't heal you when it's a trap for control, and their absence doesn't define you. Stoicism teaches us that power comes from mastering oneself, not from controlling others. You have the ability to take back your life at this moment. Let me pose this question to you. Would you prefer to dedicate your energy to someone who doesn't deserve it, experience unimaginable growth, keep playing the same game, or create a life so bright and unwavering that their contribution becomes insignificant? You've already started by thinking about these truths and daring to ask the difficult questions. Now, it's time to take the next step. Tell the truth for yourself, not for them. Love yourself enough to burn old bridges, not rage. Reclaim your time, energy, and value. and let them question why you left, why their apologies are no longer valid, and why their manipulations are no longer effective. When your silence stems from apathy, it turns into tranquility. When you speak with intention, your words take on strength. What comes next for you? It's time to stand up, change your story, and live unashamedly for yourself. Declare aloud that you are unstoppable. Your life, when lived with purpose, becomes the ultimate comeback. If this resonates with you, please take a moment to like this video, leave the first comment below, and share it with someone who could benefit from this message. Then write it down, commit to it, and let it guide you as you go forward. This trip is just beginning, and someone stuck in a never-ending cycle of waiting for answers won't subscribe. Your tale is not yet complete. There are still blank pages waiting for you to fill them. Write bravely, write brilliantly, and never turn back, because you are stronger than the hurt they caused, and your future is more promising than they could have ever dreamed. Continue to grow and rise, and never forget that the only worthwhile game is the one in which you succeed by becoming the greatest version of yourself. Here's to your independence. Stay unstoppable, and let's celebrate your truth and the amazing tale you are about to write.